Yes. Did you see those? Okay, we've heard plenty about whether you're Amazon exclusive to Amazon, KU, things like that. Well, how about a different view? How about one on what's like going wide? Reedsy, he's kind of all over the place. He's able to help whatever. whether you're Amazon exclusive or wide. But D2D, a great perspective on what it is to be wide. Now, the best way this is going to work is a panel, a mini panel. So if we could queue up, just ask questions. They'll each give an overview of what they do, and then let's queue up in the middle and use the microphone. It's not so they can hear the questions, it's so the people at home can hear the questions. We want to record it so everybody can hear what the question is and then what the answer is. So,
thank you for having us. I'm Dan Wood from Draft2Digital. There's an old saying that goes, "May you live in interesting times." It's an interesting saying because it kind of sounds like a blessing at first, but it can also be intended as a curse. We live in very, very interesting times, and depending on what part of it you're looking at, sometimes it seems like a curse because we have too many choices sometimes. I think we all suffer from the fear of missing out, so we're always questioning, am I doing the right thing? If I was only doing this, maybe I'd be doing more successful. And as we all know as humans, the grass always seems greener on the other side. So we're going to talk about going wide because the great news is there are more options out there than Amazon. For a lot of you, I'm not going to try to convince you everyone should be wide because honestly, some of you are going to be much more successful being exclusive, but for some of you, being wide is a real option. So we kind of want to talk about some of those scenarios. We want to talk about what's going on in wide. As a lot of people here obviously are from the UK. Several of us are from the US. Amazon is so dominant in both those markets. It's just incredibly dominant. However, for Canada, for Australia, for a lot of other major English-speaking countries, Amazon is not the major player in those places. And so there's a lot of opportunities to be had. I hate it when people get up and like experts get up and talk about the book industry and what you should be doing as though the whole book industry is just one thing. In fact, the different markets are very different. If you write romance, it's a very different market than the sci-fi market. The niches of different markets are very different. And so historical romance is a very different market than contemporary romance. And so I encourage you, as you make your publishing decisions and strategies, make sure you're talking to your peers. Like they're going to be the most important group to learn from because they're trying different things. They'll be able to tell you, was this successful or not? There are certain genres that work well in KU and don't work anywhere else. There are other genres that work wide that don't work in KU. And so always consider that. International continues to grow. It has not grown as quickly as I had hoped. We've always been big proponents of international, but it is growing. The adoption rate for ebooks is continuing to grow. And so as you think about the future, one great thing about the exclusive program with Amazon is that it's only a 90-day commitment. That's not a very long time. Like you can go in and try that and see if it works for you or not. However, I really encourage you when you're looking at things like audiobooks. The audiobook market is changing rapidly. It's growing. It's one of the most exciting areas of books right now. Audible is asking you to sign a 7-year exclusive commitment, and 7 years is a very, very long time. They give you great incentives to do so, but if anything, I would love to encourage you if you get anything out of my talk, is to consider, do I really want to sign a 7-year commitment in audiobooks? It's an exciting time because Google Play is getting audiobooks. iTunes no longer has an exclusive contract with Audible and will be doing something of their own with audiobooks. Kobo just opened their own audiobook service, and so one of the neat things that's happening is because there are different services and different options out there, you can gain pricing control. We work with a company called Findaway Audio, and if you distribute your audiobook through them, you can control your price everywhere but Audible. That's going to make things like BookBug possible for audiobooks, because you have not had any control over your price at Audible. They have said it's going to be exactly this price based on this length, or it's going to be one credit. I'm an Audible customer. I love Audible. However, it really cuts out kind of the middle market. Like shorter books don't tend to do well on Audible because everyone wants to get a good value for their credit. And so a lot of times there's kind of that middle market of things, especially some nonfiction, where it's really kind of short, but it's a great book. Whereas I spend a lot of my audiobook credits on fantasy. I tell you, I got the new Brandon Sanderson novel, and it's 55 hours. That's a good use of one credit, but I'm going to be listening to it forever. That being said, things that work really well wide. The romance does incredibly well. Urban fantasy does well. Mystery and thrillers can do very well in Barnes & Noble. We're seeing continuous growth and innovation from Kobo. They've just been a great company to work with. iBooks continues to grow. They haven't done a lot or made a lot of changes recently with their programs, but they're starting to. They are redoing their bookstore layout coming in the future. So I'm excited to see what that looks like, because if anything's really held them back, it's that their bookstore is kind of difficult to browse. So they're actually making some movement there. Google Play recently announced the audiobook feature. We're seeing a lot of different companies that are interested again in trying to compete with Amazon and are realizing the value that books bring and how they bring customers to their platforms. I'm very excited to see Walmart has made a partnership with Kobo. And so Walmart's going to start selling the Kobo e-readers in the US markets. They're going to sell ebooks on their website. So we don't know what that's going to do, but we're excited to see what goes on with that. David Gottman has an excellent post about the marketing tactics are very, very different for Wide versus being exclusive to Amazon. I highly encourage you. Is it called The Turtle and the Hare?
Tale of Two Marketing Systems.
Tale of Two Marketing Systems. It's a great post. Big things for being Wide. Have box sets. Box sets are a huge part of success with being Wide. We know for a fact Kobo readers, for some reason, the Canadian market loves box sets. They're always in our outliers, much more so than any other retailer. Their merchandisers love box sets because you can have higher price points. A lot of the different merchandisers at Kobo and Barnes & Noble specifically, they come out of traditional publishing, and so they think they really like the higher margins they can get on a box set. And the great thing is, with box sets, now Kobo and Barnes & Noble and iTunes all give you the full royalty rate above $9.99. And so that's a great thing. With Draft2Digital, we've always done that. And so you can, unlike Amazon, you're not penalized for having something priced over $9.99. So box sets are a huge part of success. Pre-orders. I know a lot of people don't use pre-orders on Amazon because of the way it affects your rank. Since the ranking gets kind of split over the time that your pre-order's up rather than all hitting at once. So people like to get that initial boost on the first day of sales. And Amazon is kind of, let's just say they're not so nice about how they handle it if you don't meet the publishing date. And they penalize you for 1 year. None of the other distributors do that. All the retailers allow you to change your date. So like if you finish it early or if you want to push it back because life got in the way, you can do that. In addition to iTunes, Apple rewards you by, you can rank while you have a pre-order, and it can rank on its own, and then you get all of the rank on the day of release. And so it can give you like a nice bump in visibility. All the retailers use pre-order numbers to help them determine what to merchandise. And so there's a lot of opportunities. Apple has an exclusive pre-order program where you can apply and tell them, I would like to have this exclusive to Apple for about 1 month or more of the pre-order period. It doesn't have to be the whole pre-order period. And they will help you with extra visibility for your product. So just a lot of options with pre-orders in general. I would say that the quality of your presentation, like your cover, your editing, is all very much important, maybe more important on the other platforms because of how dominant traditional publishing has been with them. And so I'm going to turn it over to Ricardo here because Reedsy is a great place to find the professionals that can help you get that quality up.
Well, thank you. So I don't have a hand in the game of like KU versus Y, which is why I love being here. But from a business perspective, and I was talking about this with Joanna yesterday, it's never made sense for any business to have all their eggs in one basket. And I know everyone's talking about that, and still everyone's still very much incentivized to be in KU. Now there's certain genres, and there are a lot of them, where it just doesn't make sense not to be in KU, because you're not going to get anything out of Amazon if you're not in KU. However, I'd suggest everyone writes in those genres to maybe, once you start making some money, either save a good part of that money in case anything happens, in case, who knows, Amazon changes royalty rates, Amazon changes how KU works, Amazon changes thrice a year, and every time a lot of authors get hit. Some authors change fast enough and take advantage, but when KU was released, we saw a lot of unrest and a lot of authors getting hurt. So I'd always advise the general thing, maybe try writing in another genre and put a series wide, and obviously think about the fact that marketing wide is very different from marketing in KU, as Dan was saying. So that blog post from David is really, really good around that. And Amazon Decoded as well. If you go on his website, sign up to his mailing list, you get Amazon Decoded for free. And it's probably one of the most up-to-date books on how Amazon works in terms of prop list, bestseller rank, and also how to market if you're in KU and how to market if you're right. Speaking of which, to reinforce the idea of like marketing when you're wide, I've got a little anecdote that I think can teach you two things. So I think it was a couple of years ago, we had one author who came to Reedsy, and he'd won the Wattpad Watties contest award. So that's one yearly contest that Wattpad does, and a bunch of authors win. And so he'd won that, and he thought, okay, I'm going to turn this Wattpad story that I have into a book. So he hired an editor, had a proofreader, hired a cover designer, published it on Amazon, and then he reached out to us saying, hey, can you help me promote this like I used to, guys? And I've got this nice story because I won the Watties award. And so we did a nice success story around that. We published it on the blog. And back then, I liked to promote our posts on Facebook through Facebook ads, because I thought, hey, content marketing, all that. We still do that, by the way. If you get like Reedsy posts in your feed, that's me. Don't hit like, I don't want to see this advert. Just like, hit like, love, stuff like that, comment. It's going to make my job easier. And so I had this blog post that I wanted to promote, and I was thinking, who am I going to promote this to? So I used interests, obviously, and I thought, okay, there's a lot of Wattpad readers. Where are they? A lot of them are in India or in the Philippines. So I thought, for once, I'm going to stop targeting the US and the UK with this, and just for fun, to get a lot of traffic on the blog, I'm going to target this to the Philippines and India. And I got crazy click-through rates and crazy CPC, like 0.1 or something like that on a blog post. Now, it's not worth a lot to me to have like a bunch of traffic from the Philippines on our blog, but it was quite interesting. The second thing I did is I thought, this could actually be of interest to Wattpad employees. So I targeted Wattpad employees in the UK and the US, because that's what you can do on Facebook as well. You say, I think it's demographics, Wattpad, and you have it either as an interest or as like employee of the Wattpad company. And 1 week after, we get an email from one of the Wattpad founders saying, hey, I checked out what Reedsy is doing. I love what you guys are doing. We should have a chat about the partnership. So that was 2 years ago, and we're still chatting about that partnership. But it shows that Facebook advertising can be used for other purposes than B2C. Now, everyone here in this room who uses Facebook ads is using it for B2C purposes. But think about Facebook as a way to reach very, very niche people. Like, that ad didn't cost me anything because like the total audience was maybe 1,000 people, and Facebook was telling me to not do this because your ad's not going to reach anyone. It's not worth it. But it reached the people I was interested in. So I'm saying this, if you're wide, if you want to reach certain vendors, certain booksellers, certain companies that can help your career wide, think about advertising to them on Facebook, like through a very soft ad like that. Think about advertising to them through LinkedIn, because not all companies have like a demographic like that on Facebook. Think about reaching them in other ways than just like the usual like email, hey, here's my book, please read it, please like put it in your bookstore, please give it some merch or some promotion.
Buying a spear is highly effective too.
If you go to conferences, yeah, buy a spear. You can serve us an ad before saying, I'll buy you a beer at a conference. So yeah, 2 things out of this. Think about advertising as B2B, especially if you're wide, if you want to get favors from other companies. And also think about using Facebook ads for other countries. It's a lot cheaper to advertise. I'm not even talking Philippines, India, even to advertise in Italy, Spain, France, to reach like expats. There are expats, US and UK expats all over the world. And it's a lot cheaper to reach them through Facebook advertising if you're wide. And they're not always going to buy on Amazon, which is why it's better to be wide in those countries, as Dan was saying. And once you have a solid fan base in a certain country, like English-speaking fan base, for example, in Germany, you can start thinking about translation. So I don't know if we should talk about translation. How many people here are thinking about translating the books? Cool. So my main advice, how are we doing in time? Okay. So my main advice around translation, 99% of the time is don't do it. So my mother's a translator, and she's doing a very fine job, but cost for translation, if you factor in everything, if you want to do it right, is 0.1 cents, $0.1 euros per word. So it's 10 cents per word. So I'll let you do the math on an 80,000 word novel. And obviously, you're going to find people who are going to do it for cheaper than that. You can try to find royalty share. There are platforms like PayPal for that. Now, in my experience, I've had a lot of manuscripts. I can read French, Spanish, Italian, so I've had a lot of manuscripts translated into those languages sent to me. And usually when you go for a cheaper translator, then the book's not going to sell, you're going to get bad reviews, and so you're going to have it edited. And then in the end, it's going to go back to the 10 cents per word cost I was mentioning. Now, I know translators who are very good, and for 10 cents per word, they're going to translate the book professionally with experience in your genre, because basically a translator is going to translate and also edit to make sure that you're going to adhere to genre tropes in that market. We're going to have your book edited and proofread by a peer. We're going to analyze the market for your genre in that country. So where are you going to place the book on Amazon and other bookstores, because categories in other Amazon stores are not the same as on the US or UK store. I'm not even talking about like categories on other local stores. The ebook market is completely different in Germany from the US and UK, and you can talk more about that, but the importance of Tolino. So they need to research the market, they need to translate the blurb, and again, make sure that they include all the keywords in that language you want in the blurb, research keywords, research categories. You get the gist. So you need more than just someone who's going to translate the book. You need translation, editing, and marketing, and all of that language. Which is why, in the end, it's going to cost you 10 cents per book. Whether you do it by hiring some subpar translator and then having it edited 2-3 times and then having someone else do the marketing, whatever. So budget that. Now, in order to make that back, you need, one, a market where ebook penetration is high. And right now that's pretty much only Germany and still. And two, you need, I think, a solid English reading fan base in that country that's going to help you launch the book in the local language. Because there's nothing more effective than word of mouth. And if there's people who read in English who've read your book in that country, even if it's just a street team of 20, 30 people, but you need to have them, who are going to tell their friends who don't read in English, by the way, this author I love is finally releasing their book in translation, so you should absolutely get it. So that's the cases where it can make sense and where you can recoup your money, but like do the math before you venture into it. Like by my reckonings, only translation would make sense for only 4 or 5 people in this room, and maybe just only German, but that's only my opinion.
So I think we want to open up the questions pretty soon. We're going to have a mic up front, and we'd really love for you to come up and ask some questions. So I've told Ricardo to be on good behavior, so you don't have to worry about him.
We've got time for a couple of questions, so if you want to ask, come on up. We've got time for 3 questions. 3 volunteers. 3 questions.
Do you have a report on what genres work on what platforms? Because you're mentioning some work better.
Right. Really, I don't have like a blog post or anything about it. Romance does well wide. Romance is very strong in the Australian market and does well on iBooks, does well on Kobo. Mysteries and thrillers do well on Barnes & Noble and iBooks, but Barnes & Noble much more so. Urban fantasy and like YA, I would say that Apple doesn't really release their demographics, but based on what sales for us, and we distribute about 100,000 books to Apple, about 140,000 books throughout all the markets. I would say that Apple trends to be like female mid-30s. And so the stuff that works for those demographics work at Apple, and they're probably the biggest market outside of Amazon.
Hello. I write in a subgenre which is very KU heavy, but the one thing that people do go wide for is a box set in order to make a run at bestseller lists. Do you have any thoughts on tactics and strategies for doing that?
Yeah, pre-orders is going to be a huge part of that. With hitting most of the major lists in the US, you have to be wide. You can't do it just on Amazon. And so we frequently see the multi-author box set as a tool people are using. We see a lot of people just single author box sets as well. Pre-orders, set up a pre-order way in advance and advertise. Like I said, Apple, you actually get a lot of incentives to the pre-order. With the other vendors, they're also much more likely to feature your book if it's a pre-order. And so that's the major part of the strategy I would consider. Most of the retailers will give us numbers on a weekly basis, and so you can check in with Draft2Digital, or some of them listed on their website how many pre-orders you have, so you can kind of know how many books you need. I believe with Barnes & Noble, they don't report unless you sell 500 or more. And so hitting that 500 mark is very important. But after that, it's not so important.
Hi, I recently did the go wide thing. I guess my biggest question is that I see on K-boards that a lot of the people who successfully done it have got a BookBub ad, which has been a huge boost for them. But for those who can't get a BookBub ad because it's so competitive now, what is an alternative marketing strategy in order to be able to get that big blip to get you actually noticed wide, to get a bit of traction started?
Right. BookBub, as you mentioned, is by far one of the best ways to kind of get moving at all the others. And the BookBub staff has said multiple times they're much more likely to pick your book if it's wide because they have readers everywhere. There are a lot of other smaller lists that I see people using.
Most of those lists actually need you to put your Amazon book first.
Yeah.
And they still are primarily marketing it to Amazon.
Right.
And what I see is the biggest problem is how do you get more of an advertising into the wide section without having to be Amazon first? And yes.
Yeah, so one thing we do is I send nominations for promotions to all the retailers. So people tend to write in and say, like, here's what I'm doing, here's what I have. I would say the merchandisers heavily prefer books and series. They're much more likely to give promotions like a three-person series. And so we're constantly nominating for those areas at the different retailers. I send out, depending, like Kobo sometimes will run special promotions around a certain genre or a certain topic. So like one time they ran books that are good for summer or beach reads. And so they wanted things that kind of had like beaches on the cover or sunny covers and things like that. So we're always nominating books. So like with Draft2Digital, you write in and kind of let us know what series you're trying to promote. Those things are good way.
That is something I've actually missed.
Yeah.
So somewhere on your site, there's something that I've missed that I've got to go back and look for.
And a lot of it we don't advertise it on our site per se because we can't get every book featured. But I talk about it to people at conferences quite a bit. The people that are really investing in their own careers are the people we're trying to get featured.
Yeah, I'd say that all the authors I know who are doing well in other bookstores are putting a lot of effort into advertising directly on those bookstores. So there's someone who's doing really good on Google Play, or was doing really good on Google Play a couple of years ago at least, because he was advertising directly his Google Play link book and using mix of interest on Facebook to make sure that it was reaching Google Play readers in his genre, and he reached the top of Google Play with his book. And it's much easier to then go and ask either direct or then for promotions if you're already doing well or have done well in that store. So if you're wide, you're going to need to put a lot of specific marketing and advertising power into advertising to those stores, which is why it's very different, wide marketing than KU marketing. And
on their website, yeah.
Their website.
Having links on their website.
Yeah, having links on the website to the different stores. And basically doing everything to push people to not only to Amazon, to the other ones as well. And regarding BookBub, was a post recently on the BookBub Partners blog on BookBub International only deals, which are here easier to get. And again, a good idea to reach wide audience in other countries than the US or UK, and it's easier to get a BookBub deal. And yeah.
Real quick, have you guys noticed the BookBub cost per thousand ads, which you can focus on the other ones? Do those work effectively for the other stores?
I've seen some people use them, but nearly all of them I've seen are going towards Amazon.
All right, hey, I want to thank Ricardo Fayet and Dan Wood